Good afternoon, dear children. In the previous class, we started the continent Antarctica and we learnt about the meaning of the word Antarctica, which literally means opposite of the Arctic. We had also learnt a little about the physical features, that is, the ice caps, the transantarctic mountains, which divide Antarctica into two parts, East Antarctica and West Antarctica, and we learnt a little about the Antarctic Peninsula. Today we will proceed further with the climate, vegetation and wildlife of Antarctica. Here is the map of Antarctica, and as we all know by now that Antarctica lies in the southern hemisphere and therefore seasons here are opposite of what we experience in the northern hemisphere. Antarctica has very few variations in climate. This is because the continent is essentially round and is circled by a uniform expanse of ocean over which Antarctica becomes the coldest of all the continents because of the westerly winds which are blowing all over it, and therefore it becomes an icy, windy continent. The seasons in Antarctica only include the winter season and the summer season. The cold and long winter season lasts from April to September, and the average winter temperature is minus 70 degrees in the interiors and minus 30 degrees Celsius at the coast. And the lowest recorded temperature is minus 90 degrees Celsius, which was recorded at the Vostok station on July 21st, 1983. Blizzards during the winter and the summer seasons are common, but you have severe blizzards in the winter season. Now, what are blizzards? Blizzards are intensely cold and strong winds. I had shared a small video of the blizzards in the previous class also. Here you have a complete definition of it. A severe snowstorm with high winds or intensely cold and strong winds accompanied by falling snow. That is the term blizzards. Another important criteria to learn is that there is no direct sunlight in the entire Antarctica area for about 3 months, during which twilight is experienced, and there is a continuous period of darkness for around 6 months in the Antarctica area during your winter months. Let us understand the term twilight. The literal meaning of twilight is the soft glowing light from the sun when the sun is below the horizon. I'll explain this with the help of a diagram also. And that light is the only thing which is giving the light to the area. The light from the sun, not the direct light, but the reflection of the sun rays which are there in the atmosphere, like you can see in the picture. That is the term twilight. Now, when we talk about the summer months, they are from November to February, exactly opposite to what we are experiencing or what we are about to experience. Those months like November, December and January are the cold months for us or the winter months for us, whereas these are the summer months for Antarctica because it is in the southern hemisphere. This important phenomena is really extremely necessary to be understood by all of us. Now here the temperature in these months, that is the summer months of Antarctica, that is November to February, you have a temperature ranging from minus 35 degrees Celsius in the interiors up to around minus 2 degrees Celsius at the coast. And there is a distinct difference between the summer and the winter temperatures. And this is because the continent has a period of continuous sunlight in the summer, and in winter there is a period of continuous 6 months approximate darkness in the winter months. Now it's very important for all of us to understand the phenomena of continuous daylight during summers and continuous darkness during winter months. Why is that happening? Let us understand this with the help of these diagrams. First, we need to understand that the amount of heat that the place receives on the earth depends on the angle at which the sun rays reach it. When a place receives vertical sun rays, the place gets hot. Now, this is because the amount of heat in the direct vertical rays is concentrated on the smaller area, whereas the same amount of heat is spread over a larger area in the case of oblique rays. Now we have noted that the tilt of the Earth's axis causes the season. Here in this diagram, you can easily understand this also. The Earth, as we all know, is tilted at an angle of 66.5 degrees to it. Therefore, what do we see? That the axis is therefore inclined at an angle of 23.5 degrees from the perpendicular to this plane. Now, as a result of this, in the course of the Earth's movement around the Sun, the North Pole remains inclined towards the Sun. Wait, here in this diagram, you can understand it more clearly that the North Pole remains inclined towards the Sun for a part of the year, while the South Pole is tilted away from it. Here, North Pole is towards the Sun and South Pole is tilted away from it. Now the reverse of it happens during revolution, when you have the North Pole being tilted away from the Sun and the South Pole being inclined towards it. Therefore, on the planet Earth, this gives rise to the changing seasons and the varying lengths of day and night. And if the Earth was not inclined at an axis, we would never have seasons. And this we all know, since class 3 we've been studying about it. But here, when we are talking about the phenomena of continuous darkness and continuous light during winters and summers, we will be experiencing the same in both the poles, that is North Pole and in the South Pole. So we need to understand this completely. Basically, the Earth revolves around the Sun in an elliptical orbit, and this motion, together with rotation, makes the entire Earth's environment a little complex. Specifically because it is inclined at an axis and it is not straight, that is 90 degree, but at the angle of 66 degree and a half. Let us understand this with a very beautiful video I have picked for you.
Midnight sun and polar night is caused by the tilt of Earth's axis toward the sun. Earth is not spinning upright like a top. Its axis tips over to one side by about 23.5 degrees. This affects the amount of sunshine on a particular part of the Earth and causes seasons to happen. Each year, the northern hemisphere of Earth tilts toward the sun between April and September. It receives more heat during this time, so has higher temperatures, and it is summer in the north. On the contrary, at this time the southern hemisphere tilts away from the sun and receiving less heat has lower temperatures, so it is winter. This reverses between September and April. The south part of the Earth tilts toward the sun to experience summer. But how does the tilt bring the total daylight or darkness to the poles? Poles of the Earth get the most contrast. The tilt of Earth exposes the poles to uninterrupted sunshine, so in summer, the sun does not set. And the same tilt also hides the poles completely from receiving sun's rays, so during the winter, the sun does not rise. When the North Pole has the midnight sun, the South Pole sees polar night that later switches.
This is a short video on Antarctica, the frozen continent at the bottom of the Earth. Blizzards are common even in summer, and wind chills can be dangerous if you're not covered up. In Antarctica, it gets very cold, so you have to dress in many layers to keep warm. And waterproof gear. And a life jacket every time you're on the water. That is an amazing iceberg. Depending on where you are, the temperatures in Antarctica can get from 30 degrees Fahrenheit to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. And in the winter, they can drop down to minus 90 degrees Fahrenheit. We were here in January, which is summer in Antarctica. If that sounds strange, it is because Antarctica is in the southern hemisphere and the seasons are reversed. That means the summer is actually in January, the winter is in July, and you do not want to be here in July. Not only are the days longer in the summer in Antarctica, they are really, really long. In fact, because most of Antarctica is below the Antarctic Circle, the sun does not set on most of Antarctica at all in the summer. To understand the 24-hour sun, it's best to do an experiment with a globe and a flashlight. The flashlight represents the sun. Here, we're looking at the southern hemisphere. It's summer down here, so the South Pole is pointed towards the sun. This sticker represents someone standing on Antarctica. Now, as the Earth rotates, it's easy to see that the area around the South Pole, including most of Antarctica and the spot where our person is standing, is always in the light. That spot on Antarctica is getting 24-hour sun day after day. We were there in January and never saw darkness. This is me celebrating New Year's Eve with my parents at midnight. And this is me camping outside in a hole we dug in the snow. Again, about midnight. It's still very light outside. In the wintertime, the sun never rises. The South Pole is now facing away from the sun, and our sticker never sees the light of day, day after day, 24-hour darkness. And that creates some difficult and dangerous conditions. One other fun fact about Antarctica's location. We're 90 degrees latitude away from home, so that means we're standing sideways. That water is not nice to swim in. In the winter, it's frozen, and in the summer, it's right around 32 degrees and full of ice. But that didn't stop me from jumping in for just a few seconds. In fact, I did it twice.